What does culture mean to you as a leader, Paul?
So we have a construct here that our drivers are our most important people. I've visited many distributors. I've seen a lot of things. I try to listen.
Do you have such a unique vantage point, having been in the industry?
So you learn so much, and some of the practices that we have adopted here at Saval came directly from people I met 20, 30 years ago. We still do those things. We do some things here at Saval that keep us close to the customer.
Welcome to Crave, the IFDA Podcast. My name is Julianna Blau, your host for this series of great conversations with industry and non-industry leaders. The food industry is evolving rapidly, and so are its leadership challenges. Our mission with the IFDA Podcast is to help you stay ahead of the curve with fresh leadership insights and strategies. Before we get to today's guest, I'd like to recognize Cut+Dry, our sponsor for Crave. Cut+Dry is the nation's leading e-commerce platform offering the seamless ability for distributors and their partner manufacturers to promote and sell more cases with our best-in-class operator user experience. With that said, I'm super excited for this conversation because I feel that I've had a little bit of a pre-interview. Paul, we got to sit together at an IFDA conference, and I just loved everything we had to say about leadership. So how about we do it this way, Paul? How about you introduce yourself and tell me what you love about this industry, because you are fourth generation. And maybe tell us a little bit about the IFDA community, what that means for you, and then we'll get into our leadership conversation.
I'm the president and CEO of Saval Foodservice. I've been in the business since 1983 and took over running the company in 1999. So I've been doing this for 26 years, and we're still here. So every day I get up and say, hey, don't screw this up. And so far, so good. So the story isn't completed, but it's still being written, and I'm thankful for that.
And what was interesting, Paul, as I was getting ready for this, I listened to a few other podcasts you were on. First thing I did is go on your website even again this morning. And I love how literally the first thing I see on your website, it talks about culture. It says at Saval, we believe integrity and trust are the root of our culture. So I think this is a great place to start this leadership conversation. And maybe let's just start, like, what does culture mean to you as a leader, Paul?
Well, first of all, it's not fake. It's like real. We because you see that on all the websites, right? But we actually, I think, do have a unique culture. I think sometimes when things don't go well, you learn more than when they go well. And, we've had bumps and bruises throughout the years, and I've certainly lived through multiple generations of family. So you can imagine that it's all not smooth. But in 2005, we bought a company that had been in business since 1867. It was a family business that we bought. They were going out of business, and we weren't quite ready for them. The building wasn't big enough. We were in an expansion mode. We were under construction, but we had to take them when we could take them. And it didn't go particularly well, the acquisition. And I was a little upset about it. And ironically, at that time, I had hired a coach from one of my executives, and he and I had used them to get, do better things. And so he was kind of trying to help me get through this difficult time. And he found me a book that spoke to me. It's by Fred Kofman. It's called Conscious Business. And so we've been learning, practicing, and training on that book, Conscious Business, for 20 years now. And I believe it's made a big difference in our company. And certainly in a multi-generational business, depending on which part of the family is in control, it really, the culture changes over time. And while everyone speaks to being part of the family and being a family business, what does that really mean? Because families don't always get along. It's always not perfect. So how do you do better at that? And I've learned a lot about how to do better at that. And so We train on concepts like unconditional responsibility and essential integrity and ontological humility and authentic communication and constructive dialogue and impeccable coordination, and lastly, emotional mastery. And I practice them every day. And I try to set that example for our people, and they're all trained, all the executives, all the managers, all the salespeople are trained in these concepts. And we're not perfect people, we never will be, but we certainly can try to be better. And our goal is to be happy and live a value system that we can feel proud that the path we led was doing the right thing and not taking shortcuts, but doing the right thing and having integrity. So that's kind of my, I speak with every new employee when they come here at Saval. I go through all of those concepts. I tell them the history of Saval according to me, and some of that is a little funny, and uh, it was funny now, I should say, and then try to incorporate those concepts into the story I tell about our history. So again, we're not perfect, and it's always not always great, but I think everybody kind of bought into the culture and really enjoys the true family atmosphere we have here. Everybody that comes here makes a difference. And everybody that comes here knows what difference they make. We share financials with our employees. We share how we're doing in the strategies, whether good or bad, financials, whether they're good or bad. And so that everybody knows they have a part. And so I'm very proud of the culture that we've built. And certainly, my son, when he takes this over, he may change it up or whatever, but it's worked for us now at this time.
Man, there's so much. I want to dig in a few areas. The one thing that I see quite a bit, Paul, and I'd be interested if you have another example where there were some learnings around when mergers and acquisitions take place or someone buys someone else. I think that's the one thing we don't do a good job sometimes in the due diligence is really appreciating the culture. We look at the spreadsheet, we look at the numbers, we feel good about the business, we look at customer base. Are there things now that if you were to give me advice, let's say I was buying a business, to say, Julian, I would look at certain things as it relates to culture, or are there just learning? So let's play off of that a bit.
So we compete with all the big companies in the country, Cisco's, US, PFG, Chef's Warehouse, Gordon, and we do a pretty good job. And why? Why do we do a good job? Because our people care. If you were out on the street, and I go out and try to get out on the street once a month at least, what do I hear first and foremost? I love your drivers. So we have a construct here that our drivers are our most important people, because what the customers think about the way the driver treated them that day is their concept of what Saval's about. Not me sitting
Mm.
on my butt in the office, but how we treated them that day. And so if the drivers feel a part of this ecosystem that we've established, it's going to make a difference. And we won't lose customers necessarily for a nickel on cheese, because we're delivering on our promises to get them their product there on time, um, in good condition, at the price they agreed upon. And so they're the face of our company. We reinforce that concept. Again, first week at work, everybody hears that. Here's the organizational chart. I'm at the bottom. Drivers are at the top. Yeah, the salesmen are there too, but that's what we do. So I think, that's important. And I think that it's a competitive advantage that we have over the big guys. And certainly they try to establish a culture, but I've been here 26 years running the company. How many leaders of those companies have been there that long? What's a 10-year, 5 years, 10? So, and not that that's always good to have the same leader, right? Sometimes you need to change them up, and one day I'll be changed up, but the consistency of the culture and the management, I think, is really important and an ingredient of our success. Our involvement in the community. We're local, right? We're the local distributor who cares about the mom and pops because we're a mom and pop. So that resonates with some it doesn't, right? But some it does, and we go through the same kind of challenges that they do. And the big corporates, not so, it's different. It's just different. Not bad or good, it's just different.
If you were to boil down your culture to a feeling, so I'm a new employee, Paul, I'm coming to you and I'm like, describe your culture. Is there something how would you, I know that's a big question, but how would you answer that? What's the feeling that I'm
Well,
going to feel when I go visit you?
so I have the good and the bad. Okay, so you witnessed my excitement that night when my driver was honored in the Hall of Fame. 25 years, no accidents. He'd been with us over 35 years, no accidents, and just a, a gentleman. Like, oh, I wish everybody could be like that gentleman. And I think I was more excited than him. I so my excitement for my people's success. And I know that I've been looking at him achieving that for like 5 years. Okay, make sure we apply for this. It's like, so that's excitement. And then on the other side of this is like, I really try hard to know everybody's name, and it's just impossible at this point. But we take a picture or get a picture of every new employee, and I try to memorize them and try to know them. And one guy, I saw his picture and it was like, and I'm thinking, I have a challenge on my hand. Like,
Mm.
I need a smile. And I learned from a customer service manager that we had, a long-term employee. She said to me a long time ago, she said, Paul, you need to smile. She says, you got a really nice smile, but when you're not smiling, the people that see you that day think you're not happy with them or happy period, and it's not good for us. So I try really hard to smile, and when I see a picture of not somebody not smiling and it's their first day at work, it's a challenge to me that let's change that. And I have no problem talking to that person about that picture because I'm going to meet him this week, and I have something to talk about with him, right? So I think, and you can't change everyone, right? But if they're going to really fit here, um, well, I have something to say.
What I'm getting from this, these are my words, if my summary before we move on to partnership, because I think culture, the things that starts, that's the thing that you're building internally, and then you interact with other humans and people to build your business is, I'm going to use the word intentional because it feels like culture, there has to be intentionality. Oh, there you go. My friend's going to come out on this one, but you have to be intentional around your culture. For instance, looking at the pictures, looking at the smile, training your people, making sure that your leaders are leading by example. Is that fair to say that the word intentional would be all over the culture of Saval Foods?
Well, well, I don't use that word because I think it's overused. I hear it all the time now. So um, I like the word conscious.
Mm.
Uh, we're conscious of this particular culture, and I think that we are conscious about practicing it, right? Um, my wife's read the book too, so she says I'm much
Mhm.
better conscious business than that at work. So I think I am more conscious of it here, because people depend on me to
Yes.
show them, how to be. So yeah, so it's it's kind of funny because she calls me on it all the time, but I try hard. I really do, and so I am very conscious of these concepts, and so I think it are most people here.
Let's transition now because if you think of 90 plus years of history, four generations, so it could be your story, it could be other people's story in the business. You must have some great stories around the power of partnerships and how you've, maybe taking certain risks when it comes to partnerships. Maybe you've redefined what partnerships looks like for you and your team. So let's talk partnerships.
Um, so I have lots of stories, not all about partnerships, but the one that's most fresh in my mind is what really brought this company to where we are from COVID. I mean, out of COVID. and I've told this story before, and I've told it many times, but we lost 65% of our business overnight. And part of conscious business teaches you need to take responsibility. You have the ability to respond to circumstances that may not be under your control. So I could sit here and wallow and like this wasn't my fault. Why'd the government do this? Why'd they shut down the restaurants? But we needed to do something. We needed to mitigate this issue. We needed to get ahead of it. And so obviously, like many of my peers, we had to lay off lots of people. We didn't have any work really. But my son came into my office that week or whatever, and he said, "Dad, all the inventory in the cooler, it's going to go bad. We need to give it away." So the idea was we partnered with a restaurant group in Baltimore City who had, I think at the time, maybe 10 restaurants, 10 restaurants. All their employees were laid off. They said, "Hey, why don't we partner? And if you'll load your truck up," we said, "We'll put bags of food together for unemployed restaurant workers. We'll put it out on social media together. I'll put my network or you put your network on, and we'll put it out there." And then my son and a salesman went to the city in the truck and handed out food. I think the first week 200 people, then 300, and 400. Then we had to put it in boxes, not bags, because we couldn't stack it. And then I get a call from the woman in our House of Delegates who I've known for years. I'm involved with the political system. She knew me. She said, "Paul, I see what you're doing." And we started getting radio and TV publicity for doing this. And she says, "It's so wonderful what you're doing. There's a nonprofit in Baltimore City for the Hispanic nonprofit community. They have a grant. Can you deliver food to them?" And we said, "Sure, we'll do that." And then because of a relationship that somebody had here with Johns Hopkins, they had a network of nonprofits in East Baltimore. They needed a delivery partner. They paid us to deliver to 70 nonprofits in East Baltimore, and then the University of Maryland did the same in West Baltimore. And in the city of Baltimore, their director of food needs called us and said, "Hey, I see what you're doing, but I see that some churches have too much food and some not enough. And can we balance it out? Will you share your network?" And at that time, we had won the USDA Farmers to Family Food Act. And so all the drivers were back. All the drivers were heroes. They were showing up with food what people needed. They felt great about what they were doing. And then, of course, the restaurants started opening up. And then it became a passion play. We're doing good things. We were getting paid for it, but it allowed our company to survive and grow. And now we're very much involved in the nonprofit space, both as a supplier and as a philanthropic partner. And I just think it's a great story. And it was the ultimate in partnerships. All started with two people, my son and the head of that restaurant group. And anytime anybody wants to know who that is, I'll certainly spread that. But he was wonderful to his people. And so that's my story of a recent partnership.
Well, I love too that it does tie to culture because of the way that you were leading the business, the principles that were in play. I'm sure initially, like all of us, there was a shock, but then the obstacle became the way as well because everybody faced certain barriers, and suddenly these opportunities wouldn't have presented themselves if you didn't have that servant leadership culture and let's just be agile, let's go. And
weren't involved in the community, didn't know people, didn't, people
yeah.
could feel comfortable calling and say, "Hey, can you do this?" And yeah, we got out there and we did it. And we did all kinds of things during COVID. I mean, we went to neighborhood associations. They could order on their website, and we would give their bag to them because people were scared to go to the grocery store. It was really amazing. But I'm so proud of my son for starting that, and it really has made a difference.
And it's funny because when you can start having space, I mean, obviously this is already what, 4 or 5 years ago, I guess. we're starting to look at that as wow. That also led to opportunities. Not that I want to experience that again and the way it was dealt with. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But man, like those are stories that in 40 years will still be within your business in the next generation. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And I think that it's so interesting because if you're involved, we're involved in the community because it's the right thing to do. But it's amazing what happens when you're involved. It's like I was on the planning board for Baltimore County, and I met this guy, and he had a psychiatric. You would go to the center every day. And he had a little cafeteria. I had a customer. I didn't know I was going to have a customer by being involved in the planning board. It was just a little thing. It lasted for a while, but it's just those happen to me all the time. And I tell people that's why it's really good to be involved because you just never know what's going to happen and what connections and what you'll learn. So.
What's the famous the quote? The credit belongs to the man in the arena, and I think if you put yourself in the arena enough times, it's
Mhm.
amazing how the quote. What is it as well? That luck is what happens when opportunity meets preparation. So in this case, your business is prepared culturally. There's an interesting thing that happens you can't control. Most people at Crustum, in your instance, you flip it around, and here we are talking about this on a podcast, basically.
Right. And like the word hope. You know,
Yeah,
don't I try not to use that word.
yeah.
I try because it's not an action word, right? It's kind of a
No,
passive thing, right? You make your luck sometimes, and God, oh, I've been so lucky, and yes, things happen to people, and I'm so lucky that that we've been healthy, but I don't really like the word hope.
no.
You want to do, you want to, so
Hey, it's good provocation. And again, well, I'll give you an example. I watched last night. Funny enough, I was probably not a smart move traveling the week of Thanksgiving here, but I got stuck in the airport. So of course, after I was finished reading and a little bit of work, I watched Netflix special and I watched Eddie Murphy's special, Being Eddie, and I thought it was fascinating. You talk about
what
a
was it again?
trailblazer, everything. Very, very good. But I'll tell you, he shared something I've been thinking about since last night. He said, in life, there's people that are successful because they're on a rowboat. They work really hard and they know where they're going. He goes, I don't have a rowboat. I have a sailboat. And he says, most of the good things that have happened to me is because I put in the work, but I allow myself to just kind of adjust the sails based on where the wind's going. So when he talks about Shrek, where he was a voiceover, he goes, you couldn't have planned that. Yet that was one of the best pieces of work he's done, and it transformed television. And he said, if I would have had a rowboat, I would not have done that because that was not part of the plan. So it is interesting, the dichotomy between how rigid do we want to have a plan versus freedom within a framework and allowing ourselves to kind of go where the energy goes. And so I just wanted to share that. I don't know if there's any response as you hear that, the rowboat, the sailboat. Ideally for me, Paul, is I would want the boat that, has the sails and the rowing. So I could row and then sometimes just let the sail take shape.
Yeah, I think so. This is a interesting a whole nother topic about generational businesses, right? I realized over the years that generational businesses typically stall at the time where the generation running the company gets to a point where they've already kind of made it and they get comfortable, right? And it's up to the next generation to push them further. And so I always was conscious about that as well,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm third generation. So I saw my grandfather, my father's generation. So I didn't want that to happen to my generation. And sure enough, I kind of am on a rowboat, but I never want to be an obstruction to the growth into the next generation. And my son is that sailboat, right? My son is pushing me in different directions. He's making me think different. He's making me do things that I might not want to do because got to this point and I'm getting older, right? So he's the sailboat now, right? Maybe I was a sailboat in the last generation. Remember, I don't know if you know this, but um, I'm a lawyer, and my father I just thought differently than they did. and they thought sometimes I was kind of aloof, but I was kind of a long-term thinker. It wasn't like that what landed on my desk would get me so upset I couldn't do anything else. It was like, okay, well that happens, but let's fix it. And so it's very interesting how that happened. And while they didn't maybe sometimes like the way I thought, eventually they came to think it was okay for me to run the business. So there were other Savils around too. So I think that's really interesting that you brought that up, because I learned you need to have a plan. You need to put a budget to it. You need some rigidity, discipline to move forward. So that is that rowboat, right? But yeah, you move with the wind a little bit here and there, and I have over the years, but now my son's on my tail, so it's good.
And wow, and one of the sayings that I've used and is freedom within a framework is I need a framework. So I need to know that I'm rowing to a certain direction, a true north, but allowing myself to feel the wind and say, actually, I think there's a better ride over there and it'll have more impact or more fun. And so I love that you kind of brought it back to the generational thing. And, that's a whole other podcast, Paul. We'll call that one the 2.0, where I've got a lot of passion working in family and generational businesses. And what you mentioned as well, which is your classically trained lawyer having all the success and fun in the food industry. And
Right.
I think sometimes we forget that too. There's different ways to have impact. You don't need to be a foodie. You don't need to be a chef. You don't need to necessarily be a distribution logistics expert to add value. I'm sure you've seen this over the years with people that have had impact in your business coming from all kinds of walks of life as well.
Still at this level, but it looks like a step forward, but maybe it's already been 2 steps forward, and I don't want to adopt a technology where it's already passed me by, and I want to be open to embracing the new technology with the things we do purchase or we ally with. And so we're a Cut+Dry customer. It's been a great experience. We are pushing though to have it do more, and so we are hopefully an advocate for them, but also push them to be even more than they are now. I actually right before here called my only customer. I have one customer, my neighborhood pizza shop, where I told her I'm going to be your salesperson because I want to learn how to use the mobile order entry. And she laughs at me, and she thinks that's so funny. And sometimes she won't bother me. She doesn't want to bother me, but I wanna learn it, because I want to know what my guys are doing with it and women are doing with it. So yeah, it's really important to me. So you can ask my people. Technology doesn't scare me. I just love talking it, but it's hard to make a decision on where to go. And we have 20 or so initiatives on the technology side of things. We believe that we will always be a little behind, but we'll learn from our peers and be able to embrace it and move quickly to adopt something that we like. So I think we're in a good place, but certainly we have to be always really. And so, and then I guess it gets to another topic is like, where do we learn? I have such great, talented people that know so much more than I know, and they really share their knowledge, and they're in a place now where maybe they were with the big company one day. Many of my people were with the big guys. They're now here. They make a tremendous difference. They know they do, and their influence on our future direction is really key to us being successful, because we need to know, what's going out on there. And so we're learning a lot. I'm learning a lot. We brought in a couple really great people recently that really uh, become a great part of our team. So yeah, technologies to be more efficient, to keep the lowest costs, to be able to compete with the big guys, and have that great service on top of it is just really crucial. So we have a ways to go. We're working on with all of our software providers to to get to where we really think we're providing the perfect customer experience. And we're not there yet, but we're working on it actively.
I love your call to action. It's a bit, even though we talk technology, to me, it's the human side. If you're going to be a leader and embrace technology and hire the right people and invest and have those 20 projects, you kind of better be at least an adapter, a user, someone that can provide feedback as part of the UX experience, I guess, from that standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you know, the relationships still matter, but you have to have the fundamentals down to the point where you can compete on cost of delivery of the service, right? So I think that goes a long way, and I think it's going to be unbelievable in the next couple of years what happens. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, and I think the leaders, the companies that choose to say, hey, we are still a human first, especially in our business. I mean, it's still human to human. So that we're going to keep investing. That's why we've got culture. And we're going to maybe not be bleeding edge with technology, but we're definitely going to be set up to be fast followers. Because
Mhm.
if our competition moves and suddenly, I don't know, the robots have come in and we don't have them, how are we even going to be able to provide products or services at the same value if we haven't made those investments?
Mhm. Right. Yeah, our decision-making process is so much shorter. That I know that the large companies strive to be fast in decision making, but it's really hard to move those big engines, right?
There's a great book that was called Play to Win. And ultimately, there's a framework in there by Roger Martin and the ex CEO of Procter and Gamble. And so I will prime this framework in there to say, with all this work, how would they do it? Again, so I'm just giving examples here because I love giving people insights. When I found this, I want to give this to the world because it's so powerful. Yeah.
That's good. Uh-huh.
I see the
Good.
smile and I know you're going to be on it tomorrow morning,
Yeah,
Paul.
yeah, yeah. I got my 10.
There you go. Listen, part of the reason we launched this podcast is we have so many great leaders within the IFTA community. Are there other, and we've covered a lot, but is there mentorship advice you've received? It might not even have anything to do with the food business or what you're doing here, that you just feel that it'd be important to share to others, whether it's book, resources, people, quotes, or anything that jumps out at you, Paul?
So I think some of my best ideas came from someone else. Um, so I visited many distributors. I've seen a lot of things. I try to listen. I'm not good at this, but I try to shut up and listen. Instead of talk. But so you learn so much, and some of the practices that we have adopted here at Saval came directly from people I met 20, 30 years ago, and we still do those things. Um, and they're unique, um, but they're kind of obvious, right? It's like I wish I would have thought about that, but I didn't. But that's a good idea. Let's take it on. So, um, yeah, the we do some things here at Saval that keep us close to the customer, and I'm very much involved with that, and so that's a little bit of a difference when they hear from the head of the company. I don't think I'm a big deal, but when they hear from me, some of them think I'm a big deal, some don't care. But right, so that's good, and I'll continue to do that until I'm done, because I think to have a um, for good or bad, my name's on the side of the truck. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
for good or bad, they're going to know who I am when I call. So, yeah.
I'd love to just quickly, because you have such a unique vantage point, having been in the industry. Obviously, it's been generational. You've given back. You've mentioned IFTA, even the pre-IFTA. What excites you about the future of this industry?
It's so exciting to me. It is like I'm a proud papa to all of these, and not only in my company, but I want my son to meet the sons of all the peers that I have, because I watch them at the networking, and it's like to me it's just a delight. I am just so happy that I'm able to carry this on, and he will be able to carry it on, and he has two little girls, and they're little, but who knows. So and I have other kids that they have kids, so who knows? I hope they'll take it on. But yeah, to me that's just a joy, to see this younger generation taking over their father's businesses. And since I've been multi-generational, I've seen the sons already take over, that are my peers or one 10 years younger or older. And it's just terrific. And what a great industry of people we have, such nice, kind, sharing people. Um, it, it, every time I'm just so impressed, and so happy to be a part of this special industry. Just really nice people.
Well, look, the one thing, that sentiment of the people and the next generation, every time I go to whether it's a Unipro event, whether it's an IFDA event, I come back, my wife is like, wow, you're buzzing. I'm like, man, the kids are all right. Like, we're going to be good because they're going to take everything we think we've done well. And then if you listen to conversations at dinner with the next generation, um, there's some fun times ahead, and there's going to be disruption in a good way. I think things that maybe we didn't have the courage to challenge. And your son is on a sailboat. Like, I mean, it's like
Yeah.
you're gonna have to follow that energy in some shape or form.
And I'm blessed because I have peers that don't have kids in the business, and
Yeah,
they
yeah.
sold, and yeah, so I get that also, but yeah, we're lucky to have this opportunity to pass it on.
Yeah, it's a privilege for sure. And maybe in 5 years I'll be able to ask you that same question and see, how that played out. Because
God willing,
5 years,
yeah, God willing,
time.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
God willing. Well, I'm going to give you last words here around, is there something else on your mind? Is there something, because obviously in preparation for this, we knew we were going to have a leadership conversation. We directionally had chatted about a few areas that maybe we thought would, provide values to people that were investing time to try to grow as leaders. There's something else on your mind, something we didn't cover that you'd like to touch on as it relates to leadership, industry, uh, the business in general?
Well, I think in preparation you had asked me if there's like one word that could describe your leadership, and I asked you for two, right? Uh, Patience and persistence. And they're not contradictory. They are, to me, complementary, and I try to be that way. I want to see how things play out, but I'm not going to let it go. I'm going to continue if I think it's the right path, but I'll patiently watch it develop. I think that's important. Sometimes, and again, I learned some things what not to do, and the knee-jerk reaction, the emotional reaction. It's not appropriate. But what is appropriate is to keep on it. If you think it's right, you keep on it. Don't let it go. You have a responsibility as the leader to stay on it so that they do, and sometimes there's so many things and that I can't stay on it. I get frustrated because I forgot about that, but then I come right back on it. So yeah, you have to limit sometimes your focus on those things. But yeah, patience and persistence are to me really important concepts.
So great words. Here's a plug for one of our other podcasts. I don't know if you had the chance to listen to it, or I think you might have met Dr. Peter Cressy. Did you meet Dr. Cressy?
I did, yes, I did.
So
Yep.
Dr. Cressy, I mean, his bio is unbelievable, the stuff he's done. So there's a bit of a hook for people to go see the podcast. But just to give you a sense, I mean, he was the admiral for the Navy during Desert Storm, reporting directly into George Sr. So you can imagine everything was running through him during Kuwait because the Navy played that role. And but strategic patience. And there was something there. He said, in the military, if you go too quick and you don't stay through, you miss out on the opportunities. Yeah, well, listen, I mean, a massive thank you for your insights, your thoughts, your passion, and there's so many nuggets of wisdom for our listeners that are going to take this in. There's some calls to action there. So thank you. And to our listeners, thanks for investing the time, the energy, the effort. Hopefully, this is something you can share with your teams, because I think we talked about culture, we talked about technology, we talked about partnership. There's all kinds of leadership wisdom that's intertwined in between the lines. And of course, I got to thank Cut+Dry, because these things aren't possible if we don't have partners that believe in these projects and they're helping power it. So, with that said, Mr. Paul, I'm going to wish you I guess as we're filming this, is before Thanksgiving. So, I will wish you happy Thanksgiving. it will air sometimes in December. So we'll see if we edit it or not. There you go.
Well, thank you for asking me to do this. I appreciate it.
This episode is brought to you by Cut+Dry, the only independently verified digital ordering platform that combines e-commerce, payments, and sales tools to help food service distributors sell over 10% more cases within a year. Here's the truth. E-commerce isn't just about going digital. It's about getting discovered. That's why, since 2009, Cut+Dry has led the industry in transforming your inventory into online custom apps that are easy to search, explore, and for your customers to uncover new products. Join us today at cutanddry.com.